The great hall of the Galactic Council stretched out before Ambassador Mikhail Petrov, row upon row of seats filled with representatives from 1,000 alien races. Tentacles, antennae, eyes of every size and color, the diversity of intelligent life in the galaxy never ceased to amaze him, even after years as Earth's chief diplomat. But today, that sense of wonder was dampened by a far more somber mood. Mikhail took a deep breath, his heart pounding in his chest as he stepped up to the podium. The fate of humanity hung in the balance. For months, Earth had been embroiled in a bitter dispute with the Zorlacks, an aggressive, warlike species who coveted Earth's resource-rich outer colonies. Tensions had escalated to the brink of all-out war. This emergency session of the Council, called to mediate the conflict, was Earth's last chance for a peaceful resolution. Esteemed councilors, Mikhail began, his voice echoing through the cavernous chamber. I come before you today not to argue for Earth's interests, but to speak on behalf of all sapient life. A murmur passed through the assembled delegates. In the Zorlack section, Ambassador Zorlack leaned forward, his red reptilian eyes narrowing. The Zorlack Empire has laid claim to worlds that have been part of Earth's dominion for generations, Mikhail continued. They have blockaded trade routes, seized freighters, taken hostages, and now they mass their war fleets on our borders, poised to strike. They believe that might makes right, that the galaxy belongs to those ruthless enough to take it by force. He paused, meeting the gazes of the councilors one by one. But I ask you, is this the future we want for our galaxy? A future ruled by brutality and bloodshed, where the strong prey upon the weak and diplomacy is cast aside in favor of violence? The human is weak, Zorlack snarled, pounding a clawed fist against his armrest. Earth's colonies are ripe for the taking. The Council has no right to interfere in our sovereign affairs. Mikhail held up a hand. Ambassador Zorlack, I understand your position. The Zorlack are proud warriors with a long history of conquest. But even the mightiest empires must learn the wisdom of restraint, of respecting the sovereignty of other civilizations, no matter their military strength. He turned back to the Council. I know there are some here who believe that humanity is not ready for a seat on this Council, that we are too young, too brash, too primitive in our ways. It is true, we have much still to learn. But I submit to you, our very presence here today is proof of our potential. Mikhail activated the holo display, bringing up an image of Earth-blue oceans, green continents, swirling white clouds. Look upon our world, councilors. We are a species who only a few short centuries ago looked up at the stars and dreamed of what might lie beyond. In the blink of a cosmic eye, we have gone from huddling around campfires to building starships that circle the galaxy. The image changed, cycling through scenes of human achievement, towering cities, vast libraries, technological marvels. Our greatest strength is not in our weapons, but in our boundless aspiration. Our curiosity, our creativity, our ability to imagine what could be, and then make it so. We are a species of innovators, of problem solvers, of dreamers who refuse to be bound by limitations. Zorlack snorted derisively. Pretty words, human. But when the Zorlack warships darken your skies, your dreams will not save you. You underestimate us, Ambassador Mikhail replied calmly. Humanity is no stranger to conflict. Our history is riddled with strife, nations, ideologies, religions clashing endlessly. But it is through the crucible of that struggle that we have learned our most important lesson, that our fates are intertwined, that we must stand together, but despite our differences, for the sake of our mutual survival and progress. He gestured to the gathered councilors. Is that not the very purpose of this council? To provide a forum where disparate civilizations can come together in the spirit of cooperation, to prove that our diversity is not a weakness, but our greatest strength. Many of the delegates were nodding now, a sea of thoughtful expressions. In the human section, Ambassador Elena Navarro flashed Mikhail an encouraging smile. Let us be clear, Mikhail said, his tone hardening. If the Zorlack Empire insists upon this course, humanity will defend itself. We do not fear war, but we know, all too well, its terrible cost. How many lives will be lost in such a conflict? How much destruction wrought, and for what? A few worlds, a few resources that the Zorlack covet but do not need. He held out his hands imploringly. I say to you, Ambassador Zorlack, it need not be this way. If you can but set aside your pride and relinquish your claims, the Council can negotiate a peaceful settlement, one that respects the rights of both our peoples. There is so much we could learn from one another, if we had but the wisdom to choose cooperation over conquest. For a long moment, the chamber was silent. Mikhail could feel the weight of 1,000 stares. Never in his career had so much rested on his words. Finally, Zorlack rose from his seat, his scales glinting under the lights. The human ambassador speaks with conviction, he rumbled. The Zorlack are not accustomed to being challenged in this way. His forked tongue flicked out, tasting the air. Perhaps there is wisdom in his words. The Zorlack do not fear war, but even we must consider if it is truly worthwhile. A buzz of surprised conversation echoed through the hall. Mikhail struggled to keep his expression neutral, hardly daring to hope. Was it possible? Could Zorlack actually be moved by his appeal? The council will adjourn to deliberate, High Counselor Zorin announced, his mellifluous voice ringing out. But it seems to me that the human ambassador has given us much to contemplate. Perhaps a diplomatic solution is still possible, if both sides can temper their pride and open their minds. We shall see. As the council filed out, Mikhail slumped against the podium, his legs suddenly weak. The adrenaline was fading, leaving him lightheaded. Elena hurried over, her eyes shining. Mikhail, that was incredible, she exclaimed. I've never heard the council so moved. You may have just single-handedly averted a war. Mikhail managed a shaky smile. Perhaps, he said, but it will mean nothing if the deliberations do not go our way. The Zorlack are proud. Zorlack will not back down easily. Have faith, Elena said, squeezing his shoulder. You made them see humanity in a new light today. Made them question their assumptions about our place in the galaxy. That is no small feat. Mikhail looked out across the empty hall, feeling the weight of history pressing down upon him. I can only hope that it will be enough, for all our sakes. Hours turned into days as the council deliberated. The human delegation waited on tenterhooks, hardly daring to sleep. Finally, on the morning of the third day, word came down the council was reconvening to announce its decision. Mikhail once again found himself standing before the assembled councilors, back straight, head held high. Zorlack was there in the Zorlack section, his expression unreadable. Esteemed councilors, High Counselor Zorin began. After much deliberation, we have reached a decision regarding the Zorlack-Earth conflict. The chamber fell utterly silent, every eye fixed on Zorin's withered gray face. It is the ruling of this council that the Zorlack Empire's claim upon Earth's colonies is without merit. Ambassador Petrov's words have swayed us. Humanity has proven themselves responsible galactic citizens, worthy of the protections and rights accorded to all members of this assembly. A cheer went up from the human delegation, Elena actually leaping from her seat. Zorlack's scales flushed a deep crimson, but he did not protest, merely inclining his head stiffly. Furthermore, Zorin continued, in light of the grievous offenses committed by the Zorlack, the unlawful seizures, the threats of violence, it is our ruling that the Zorlack Empire must pay reparations to Earth and return all seized assets forthwith. Failure to abide by the terms of this ruling will result in severe sanctions from the Council. Now it was the Zorlack delegation's turn to erupt into angry shouts. Zorlack pounded the bench, his tail lashing furiously behind him. But Mikhail barely heard the commotion. He slumped back into his seat, feeling tears prick at his eyes. They had done it. Against all odds, humanity had proven its worth on the galactic stage. Elena embraced him fiercely, her own eyes wet with emotion. You did it, Mikhail. I don't know how, but you did it. Mikhail returned the hug, a laugh bubbling up in his chest. The joy in the human delegation was infectious, spreading to the other counselors. Even a few of the Zorlack looked grudgingly impressed. It would not be easy, Mikhail knew. This was but one victory. Humanity still had much to prove. But they had taken their first steps into a larger universe, shown that they could stand tall among the stars. As he looked out across the sea of cheering faces, human and alien alike, Mikhail felt a swell of hope for the future. For the first time, the galaxy truly seemed limitless. with wisdom, with compassion, with the indefatigable spirit that had carried them from their humble beginnings to the very edge of infinity. Humanity would take their place among the great civilizations of the cosmos. And he, Mikhail Petrov, would lead the way.